TIFU by poisoning myself and almost drowning. Last summer I wanted to do some endurance swimming. I took myself out to black sandy beach and challenged myself to swim across the lake. The distance was about half of a mile. I had done this a few times. I felt confident. On my way out I drank 5-hour energy drink, did some breathing exercises, and got in the water. It was a nice summer day and the lake had grown thick with green algae. The greens lined the shore fairly thick, but once I swam out a few yards I didn't have to contend with the bramble anymore. I was able to make my way steadily to the opposite shore. I decided I had plenty of time to explore. I started swimming south along the far bank, periodically turning onto my back to rest and enjoy the sunshine. Just under half a mile along I found a break in the shore and wondered if a river or stream flowed into the lake from there. The water there was stagnant, so there was no inlet, but I saw 2 deer coming up to the shoreline. I wanted to see how close I could get and I had my eyes trained on them. I was cutting across the cove toward the deer when I started to smell the scent of bitter almond. Odd. I tore my gaze from the deer and looked down at the water. The hue of the algae was no longer a mossy green but rather a teal blue. I was right in the middle of it. I started to get a bad feeling. My gut told me to go back to my truck. The swim back was longer. I had traveled a ways south. I pushed myself harder, intent on getting back. Some kayakers checked on me but I insisted I was fine. A little over halfway back a wave of exhaustion hit. That concerned me a bit, but I was determined to reach the shore. I eventually neared the shore. My legs caught in the undergrowth. I struggled to stay upright. My right calf started to cramp hard. I fought, kicking past the brambles with just one leg. I felt for the lake bed. I needed to touch bottom. To let my leg rest, no such luck. I pressed on. My other leg cramped. I was weirdly unconcerned. A moment later my foot touched bottom. I felt a surge of relief. It hurt to swim. It hurt to stand too, but I wouldn't drown doing it. Tiny alarm bells rang in my mind. Something was wrong. I felt great. Ecstatic. On top of the world. It didn't make sense to feel that way. I was in pain. I'd almost died. Why did I feel so good? I painfully made my way to the water's edge. I crawled onto the shore. I heard voices on the other side of the brush. They asked if I was okay. I tuned them out. I stretched my calves. I heard the voices say, "Yeah. She's fine." The ground beneath me shifted. I looked up at a tree. It was shifting too. It reminded me of a mushroom trip. I had not taken any drugs except caffeine. I should have been worried. I wasn't. I felt great. The cramping subsided. I made my way up to my truck. The world spun. I climbed in my truck bed to wait it out. I was reminded that I should be concerned. I should go to the hospital. I decided to go home instead. I still felt pretty good. I started to sweat on the highway. My window was down. My clothes were soaked. Why am I sweating? I made it home. I got in the shower. I kept turning the heat up. I was sweating. I was so cold. I stepped out of the shower and looked into the mirror. My lips and my tongue were blue. What the hell? I pulled up Google. I checked symptoms but came up blank. I remembered the blue algae. I looked it up. I found a warning. The algae was poisonous. Cyanide. I had cyanide-induced hypoxia. Oh, shit. I got back in my truck. I went to Panda Express. What? I was hungry. I looked up the antidote to cyanide poisoning. I still felt pretty good. I was aware on some level 1 should be at the hospital. My urge to satiate my hunger was stronger. The antidote to cyanide poisoning was cyanobalamin, aka vitamin B12. 5-hour energy has B12. The article also mentioned oxygen therapy. Well, I had that down. I breathed quite heavily during my swim. I picked up another 5-hour. Downed it. Went to bed. And passed out. When I woke up, I told my husband about my experience. He got upset. He asked me why I didn't tell him to take me to the hospital. I wondered the same thing. I looked up symptoms of hypoxia again. One of the side effects of hypoxia is that you can be fully aware that you are dying, but you just don't care. I'm lucky to still be alive. TLDR. I swam through poison algae and almost died. Now, see. This is the kind of TIFU that I stick around for. Seems like most TIFUs are a writing exercise about the most outrageously foul bodily fluid moments. Except the coconut dude. That was actually worth the stomach churn. Glad you're okay, op. And yes, poisoning and nearly drowning and then eating Chinese fast food rather than calling 911. Genuine grade A beef of a TIFU. Take my upvote and award. Damn. I'm glad you're okay. To know you're dying and not care. That's just. Wow. In my city we've have dogs die after swimming in the lake where there's that algae. The dogs seem fine. Then they get home, lose the ability to walk, and die. Now there are signs posted everywhere warning people not to get in the water and keep their pets out as well. Scary stuff. Glad you are okay. That sounds scary AF. Also now I understand why everyone freaks out about blue-green algae. I don't swim in the lake much. Like once every few years. But every few summers there will be a big freak out over conditions favoring blue-green algae. Now I know why it's a big deal. Blue-green algae. Actually a bacteria and not an algae. Produces cyanotoxins. Not cyanide. You can't get cyanide poisoning from blue-green algae. You were poisoned by cyanotoxins. Not cyanide. Not the same thing at all. Cyanobalamin, vitamin B12, will do nothing for you if you're poisoned by cyanide. A related form of the vitamin, hydroxycobalamin, taken intravenously, can be used. I studied these molecules for my PhD. Edit. See your doc as soon as possible. Tell him or her what happened. You may have suffered some liver damage and there's quick and easy tests for that. You'll have to give a small blood sample. Holy shit, that was a wild ride. Some quick searching indicates that a lot of things don't line up in this story. Antidotes to cyanide include hydroxycobalamin, sodium nitrite and sodium thiosulfate. Hydroxycobalamin combines with cyanide to form cyanobalamin, B12, but the latter is not an antidote to cyanide as the story suggests. Hydroxycobalamin is vitamin B12A, which 5-hour energy doesn't seem to contain. More importantly, cyanobacteria present in blue-green algae can produce cyanotoxins, but are not cyanide and don't produce cyanide. Therefore, they couldn't cause cyanide hypoxia. The name is after their color, not a relation to cyanide. The cyanotoxins produced by cyanobacteria are also not related to cyanide and, while they can be dangerous, I can't find any indication that they would cause hypoxia. Cyanide hypoxia is a thing, but again, cyanobacteria in blue-green algae is not cyanide. Assuming the story is true. Maybe it was acute cyanobacterial poisoning, but even then, the symptoms don't really line up. If I really nearly died, I feel like I'd get the details right in my story. If this did happen op, you might want to do some research and figure out what actually happened and what the long-term impact could be. Exposure to cyanobacteria apparently increases risk of things like ALS over time. Sources: https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/cyanobacteria https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/cyanotoxin https /www.cdc.gov/habs/materials/factsheet-cyanobacterial-habs.html https www.medscape.com/answers/8142878-94623/what-or-antidotes-for-cyanide-toxicity https://pubmed.ncb nlm.nih.gov/7651005/https www.cvs.com/shop/ingredients/5-hour-energy-protted-1013139. Edit. I found one Greek research paper that discusses cyanobacteria's ability to both break down and produce hydrogen cyanide, but it seems to require very specific conditions including exposure to specific amino acids. https www.bjorkive.org/content/10.11/2020.01.04.894782v1.full.pdf doesn't eliminate my issues with the story.
Jesus.
You should petition the city to put up a sign near the lake about the poisonous algae. Could save others' lives. You're great at storytelling. Who would have known a 5-hour energy could save your life? LMAO. This is an insane story. And I'm glad you're okay now. Do you know what kind of algae it was? JFC. I'm glad you're okay. Is there maybe a community board, Twitter account you can check in the future to make sure swimming conditions are safe? Holly SHT Op. I was getting nervous reading it. I was like, call 911, call 911. That's insane. Did you go to the doctor the next day to get checked? I sure hope you did. Glad you are okay. This is the best mess up I've ever encountered. Thanks for the story. You should probably still go to the hospital or get some kind of test done. I had to look after a coworker who had cyanide poisoning from actually cyanide poison. We were very remote, so hospital was too far away, so I gave her amyl nitrite, sodium nitrite, and sodium thiosulfate from our poison kit as per the doctor's instructions. Then the hard part came, keeping her awake for 24 hours. Thought she was going to kill me by 5 a.m. You didn't fuck up. Hypoxia impairs your decision-making. Has been a factor in some plane crashes. For example, when an engineer on the ground asked the pilots of Helios Flight 522 for exactly the fault they were experiencing, but they were too far gone already to flip a switch. Did husband not see the blue lips? Now I'm curious. Can you give me more info on the algae and the cyanide poisoning condition you got? I want to know what to avoid. Sounds like you basically swam in the red tide Florida's West Coast experiences every summer. Blue-green algae that kills off marine life due to too much yard fertilizers and farm runoff being washed into the water. We're determined to destroy our waters because we want green lawns and cheap meat produce. You relayed that story really well. Glad you didn't die. I think I remember hearing they give you an injection of B12 at the hospital. If you had actually gone.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.